My name is hanspetermeyer, and this morning I'm talking to Ian Moul here in Comox, in his home just blocks away from Brooklyn Creek. And this is part of a series of conversations about conservation in the Comox Valley. Good morning, Ian.
Good morning.
You're involved in the Brooklyn Creek group, stewardship group. What do you call yourselves?
Brooklyn Creek Watershed Society.
Mm-hmm. And what is it you guys do?
We are a small group that work in terms of enhancing the fish habitat in the Brooklyn Creek water system.
And why is that important? Why is that important to someone like me who lives on Willamar, for example, in Courtney?
Well, a lot of people come to Comox to walk in Macklang Park along the Brooklyn Creek corridor through the watershed. It's a destination. It's an amazing local natural area that works both with being available to local people and also being a wild and natural area right within a fairly urban area.
Okay. What is the biggest issue that you guys are dealing with? I mean, there's a big project done by the local Rotary Club a number of years ago, wasn't it? Like to make all the trails and stuff there. What more needs to be done on Brooklyn Creek?
Well, we're constantly working on it. There are areas where in the last 3 years we've done a lot of enhancement, making it better habitat for fish, working with the trail system so that it makes it easier for people to move through the creek, at the same time supporting the fish movement in the water.
Now, is that important to people living in this area, like to have this creek system there?
I believe it is. When I'm down there, there's probably not a couple of minutes that pass without somebody walking along there. And people are happy. They love it.
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier, just about how lots of places are actually spending a lot of money to daylight creeks. That means taking creeks, and Brooklyn Creek's an example, right? Part of Brooklyn Creek is underground. Right.
Actually, very little of Brooklyn Creek itself is underground.
But there are other creeks in Comox, like right around here, that are underground, is that right?
Within the town of Comox, there are creeks that are underground. There's Gulf Creek that starts at the golf course, goes somewhere under the parking lot of the mall, and then reemerges about 2 blocks before the water.
Now that's the old way of doing things. And there are lots of new ways of doing things, but they're not being done for a variety of reasons. Is that right?
Well, new ways, old ways, most of the old ways were based on shortcuts, getting something done. An example with Brooklyn Creek is many years ago someone made the decision along Balmoral Road to put in a culvert to get the creek under the road and have the road pass over there. That culvert's about 5 feet in diameter. Gets the river through, and the car's over top, but it's just a dead-end bottleneck for the deer. The deer come meandering down Brooklyn Creek, and they got to go up this great big embankment and cross a busy road where a lot of them get hit, and then they cross down the other side. So this was a short-term, probably inexpensive decision that has resulted in a long-term kind of problem with deer.
And so what's is your group part of resolving that? Is that one of the things you tackle?
In the long-term plan, it would be very nice to actually make that either a very large culvert or a bridge that makes it a friendly passage for both wildlife and people moving up and down through the corridor there.
So you're also involved in the Comox Valley Conservation Strategy. Does your involvement there, does that help with your goals with the Brooklyn Creek?
I think it does in a big way. The conservation strategy brings together members of many groups in the valley, and together we can look at the bigger planning issues that affect all the different creeks and all the different administrations in the valley.
Well, and Brooklyn Creek's an example. You were just saying how it starts in Courtney up at Crown Isle, is that right?
Brooklyn Creek begins, the headwaters are in the Crown Isle area in Courtney, flows down through the regional district and then into the town of Comox.
And working through the conservation strategy means you have, it's better, your relations with local government are better, or you have more capacity to do things, or how does that work?
Well, I think we've brought together a fairly high skill set of people within the conservation strategy, that when we come together and we present a brief to the local governments, they tend to listen.
Why are they listening? Like, why do you think local government's interested when before they were interested in doing shortcuts?
Well, ultimately, the people in the Comox Valley, I believe, are really interested in working with the natural world. That we move here because we've got a natural world. It's just a beautiful place to live. We've got a bit of everything here.
Okay, and if there was one thing that we could do, those of us who aren't actively involved in the many stewardship groups like Brooklyn Creek, what would you want us to do?
I think you could consider all the decisions that we make. Every day we make decisions that, at a personal level and also as a level in planning for the valley, that have a long-term impact on the world we live in. If we just take an issue like, say, the salmon, you know, does this decision, is this going to harm the salmon? If I'm washing my car by a culvert, and is that soap going to end up billowing up in the nearby creek? Is burying a riparian area.
And a riparian area is the area around a creek that supports all kinds of. So basically, a really incredibly rich habitat.
It's the forest. Right? It's just the forest or the lands that are immediately alongside a river system or creek. Yes.
So if we make a decision to bury that, what are we losing?
We lose an immense biodiversity. We lose the the life that's in the natural world around us. Why we came to live in these places is because of the natural world.
And I'm curious about that, because you spent 10 years living on Cortez Island, and you've been here in Comox for what, the last 4 years, you said?
4 years.
So you come from a place that I think of as being like lots of rich natural environment, and you come to Comox and you're talking about the natural environment here. Can you just talk a bit about that? Like what motivates you to stay here? Or
well, in anywhere that I've been in the world, whether it's in Europe or in places in North America, what draws me is a fairly compact community that has the proximity to the natural world around it. I love to be able to walk. I don't want to have to get in my car to do everything. The Town of Comox has it. We've got a fairly compact downtown area, and then we move out quickly into places like Brooklyn Creek. We've got agricultural land along the borders of the Town of Comox. And then very quickly we move out into the rural lands of the regional district. So we really have it all here.
We have it all. And like, what's wrong with continuing to do what we've been doing?
Well, the projection is that we're going to have another 30,000 people move into this valley in the next 10 to 20 years. Now, we have to put them somewhere, and every time a new person comes in with their cars, we get more congested. So we need to develop a strategy that will allow us to work more in harmony with the natural systems that are here. It ends up costing far more to fight natural systems than it does to work with them. That seems to be proven over and over again around the world.
And the conservation strategy, the way you've been talking about it in the conversation we had even before we went on video here, sounds like a really interesting way to actually do development that conserves or even rehabilitates natural systems.
Oh, completely, completely. It works very well with, it meshes very well with the regional growth strategy, the sustainability strategy, and all the planning that can actually help enhance the quality of life that we have here.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. And I guess the final word is get out there and think about every decision you make in terms of the salmon or your kids, grandkids.
Well, volunteer. I'm constantly, people are always saying to me, why don't they do something? And my response is always, there is no they, there's only us. We've got to get out there and do it.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ian.
Thank you.